Welcome to Red Army TV. It's Dave with you on a Thursday night. It's an interesting one because it's been full of international football, but no Boro football. Two great guests with us, though, to chew the cud over all things Boro and to also talk about, hopefully, what's coming up over the next handful of games. It's Chris White and Peter Grass. And Peter, Chris, thank you for coming in, guys.
Good evening.
What do you do on an international week? Do you happily disappear from Boro discussions, or do you miss the Boro, or are you happy with international football? What do you do?
I miss it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Genuinely?
Generally, I miss it.
Yeah, I lost track of the days. I mean, I missed the first England match because I didn't know it was on.
Well, the first one was the better of the two. We almost blew the second one. But let's talk Boro. We've had the break, a couple of weeks off, or almost a couple of weeks off. It will be when we finally get to run out at the Riverside against Reading. Chris, good time for a break, bad time for a break. We didn't play too badly at Ashton Gate against Bristol City, did we?
No, and it was an opportunity lost at the end, but we had some injuries, so it's a good chance to get those players fit again. Bit of a knock with, say, Coulson being out a bit longer now, but chance for George. I mean, I thought George was finished, but if he's been playing with a thigh injury for nearly a season, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Peter, George, do you think he was finished? Because an awful lot of people have been saying back into last year, over the summer, his legs have gone.
They usually do, don't they? But I mean, it's proved it over the years when you discard a player and he goes and plays for somebody else.
Yeah. And
he gets a fresh life. You know what I mean? So working under Woody might have a fresh life.
Now it's been international break. Obviously, only a handful of players. It's the days of the Boxicers and the Ravanellis and the Janinios are well gone now for us. But we've had a handful of players pulling on the international jerseys. Do you reckon that's a welcome distraction, or would you rather have them focusing on Boro life?
I think it's good for the club.
Yeah. When
you have international players, I really do.
I agree, and I mean Paddy McNair's been our standout player for me this season. I didn't know he had it in him. I thought he was just a.
He looks a different player, Chris.
Yeah. But again, that comes down to maybe the way Woodgate's managing. I mean, I've never seen a Sombolonga win a header in the 2 years he's been here. All of a sudden, he's winning headers. All right, he needs to work on the penalties, but
yeah, we know that.
But he looks a different character. I mean, I like the combination with the Sombolonga and Fletcher up front, and we're getting more work out of a Sombolonga, which was always my criticism. He traps it further than I can kick it, and all of a sudden, he's got something more to his game. There is a bit of a bounce about him, and I think that's a positive for the club.
Well, I think it's because Woodgate's probably put his arm around and said, "You mean number one? You'd be playing week in, week out, not sitting on the bench after about 3 or 4 good games."
Yeah,
it breeds confidence.
I fancy him for 20 goals this season. I don't know why. I just think we're starting to play him a little bit more like he's used to in the past. He's been used to playing his style. I don't know. Have I been sniffing the barmaid's apron or what?
Yeah. I think he's a good player. I think he needs a service. I know we got rid of Downing. He could have provided it. But hopefully the two of them play up front together. They're hitting it off.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer Howson playing full-back. I'm not convinced by Dick Steele yet. He's in fact, I haven't even seen him bombing forward really, and he seems to be sideways and backwards, and he looks a bit slow to me. Yeah.
Have any of the new? I know we signed 4, but Mahias, we know what we got or what we're getting with Mahias. Let's forget him for a moment. But we've got Bolo, we've got Brown, we've got Dick Steele. Have you seen anything from any of those 3 in competitive games?
Well, I like Brown because he's got a bit of niggle about him, but he hasn't been producing, has he? He hasn't been producing. He hasn't been effective at all for us.
He did in that game against St Etienne, which doesn't surprise me because he's come into the game thinking, well, this is my home debut.
Yeah.
But since Luton, with Luton he was a bit of energy about him, but since then we've not seen an awful lot from any of them. Peter, any of them caught your eye?
I think Brown. Against Luton, he played okay, but they're not stand out, and it's going to take them time. I don't care what you say; they've only just come into a team that's changing the pattern of play.
Yeah.
So Woodgate knows what he wants to do with them. It's just them putting it into the game.
Are you seeing any signs that he's starting to get it out of them?
I think by Christmas you'll see Woodgate's team. I really do. I know people say, "Oh, well, it might be too late," then but it's a transition. Like you say, we haven't got the Ravanellis, we haven't got this. We've got a team, hopefully, of hard workers who are playing for the shirt.
Where do you stand on Woodgate?
Well, I wasn't a fan, and I didn't think he should get the job. But I like the way that he's talking, what he's saying. I haven't seen too much of that forward press at the moment. There's no consistency with it, and I cannot believe the goals we're giving away with crosses to the far post. Well, I mean, it's basic defending or marking a flaming player. So some of the goals we've conceded, I've found.
But Chris, can I just put in there? Don't you think we've been like that for a few years? We've never ever defended set pieces, corners, anything. They're around our box, and it just beggars to believe that the way that they've played, they're going forward. They look half decent going forward.
But it's still about the keeping the shape together, and the gaps are too. When they push forward, the gaps are too big. You have to move forward as a unit and keep the gaps together. Otherwise, the team can play around.
Play around you.
But if we're gonna adopt a more attacking and open, forward pressing style, we're gonna leave gaps, aren't we? Isn't that
not if you push forward. I mean, it's because we lack pace at the back. I mean, that's why we signed Dyke Steele, isn't it? If you press up to the halfway line, then there's always a chance you just knock the ball in the space behind you, and they're quick plays. And that happened. Was it Bristol? Bristol had some quick plays, didn't they? So I think that's the danger, and that's where we're getting caught out, because we can't push as far forward, which means that the gaps are bigger.
I don't think he's got his best team out yet.
No.
What he thinks, how he wants to play, who he wants to play in the team. Because, like you say, we've had injuries, we've had the international breaks. I think when we get a good run of, say, maybe 10 games, with a set defence, pushing out, like you say, Chris, pushing out together, defending together. I mean, that's what football's about, isn't it? I mean, you look at Man City, you see the way they play. I watched the Legends game the other night. I think.
Pep didn't win in his first season at City, did he? I mean, it took some time for him to turn it round.
Well, I get that, but the quality of players he had at his disposal was significantly greater than the one, and the size of his squad.
But I mean, it's horses for courses. I mean, but he's a significantly more experienced and probably rated by many as the best football manager, football coach in the world. So he's dealing with that at that level. I know we're at a different level. Would you be prepared to write the season off to give Woodgate the chance to learn, to develop, to show us what he wants to do with the team?
I wouldn't write the season off.
You still want us to be pushing for playoffs?
Well, you're going to a season, no matter what manager it is, well, what team you've got, you want to finish the highest you can.
Do the best that you can. And
do the best you can, and the high. You finish as high as you can. Yeah. All this about, I don't think we're going to make the playoffs. We're looking for relegation. They must have a crystal ball. It's the people that's coming on social media that's absolutely slated the lad because he's a local lad, and for me, I think they've given him a raw deal. I really do.
You look at the last season, Sheffield United and Norwich. What were they? Sheffield United were 10th, Norwich were 14th, and then they took the league by storm. And I mean, we played Sheffield United, and they were a workman-like side, but we should have trounced them both times. One of the key things I think for Boro now is we actually have a centre. If we can keep Fry fit, he can run out and play. Because he's a footballer, he can carry the ball forward and he can actually pass to a player. Where I actually quite like Ayala. I think Ayala is capable of doing it, but it's inconsistent with him.
I think it's inconsistent because he's had to keep half an eye on whoever his partner's been. He's focusing on his own game, but he has to focus on whoever's alongside, because when he was with Gibson, they had a great understanding. It's almost a natural understanding. So I'd defend Ayala in that respect. Tell you what we're going to do. We've got to discuss obviously Reading It's the first of what will be 3 out of the next 4 games at the Riverside, so a great opportunity for some points. We'll do that. There's also points coming in, comments coming in on social media. Joe Stevenson, agree on the defence. Ayala and Shotton are not the players I think Woody sees as his back two. Fry and Friend, 2 players are comfortable on the ball. All those kind of comments, get them in on social media. We've got Chris White, Peter Grasham in the studio here at Red Army TV. It's also on Red Army Radio. We're going to be taking a short break for Teesside TV. Welcome back, Red Army TV in the Red Army Radio studio. It's Peter and Chris with me. We've been chewing the cud over international stuff, fellas. Let's try and shift the focus. The week that is now, building up towards Reading. I think a couple of games ago, the Wigan match, I was saying, it's a 6-pointer because if we don't win this one, we're on a slippery slope. But we've had now 3 games unbeaten, starting to see things slowly fall into place. Are you getting a bit more confidence, Peter, when you look at the team and you think, yeah, we're starting to see a bit more from Woody now, or is it still too inconsistent?
Well, it is a bit inconsistent, but you can see what he wants. He wants them to, press, like Chris said, press up the field, press higher up, You look at all the other teams that won the league. They've won by scoring goals. And last year we didn't score many goals. But this year, we look as if we could score when we're on the attack. I mean, going to Bristol the other week there, it's a good point.
It's a great point. I know people are disappointed because we could have
had
3.
Yeah, because we could have had 3. We could have had 3 at Luton as well. And that would have put us further up the league. And that's why I think they should give Woody a bit more time to get his standards across, how he wants to play, rather than all this negativity.
Well, I mean, I don't do social media as such, so I haven't really picked up on any negativity.
Well,
but what I have said is they must feel that Boro are going to be playing attacking football because they picked them for another 2 matches, live matches on things, that's impact for me, because if it's on the telly, some of my friends don't want to go to the away matches, and then it's one less in the car. But I think I'm still got Huddersfield on with it. So I think going back to the media have got belief that Boro are going to be scoring goals and playing football, and that's why they're putting them.
I mean, we are scoring. We look like we want to score goals. We're getting the ball in the box earlier. I know that Woody's been shouting that, hasn't he? Get it in. The defenders will be panicking. The defenders will be worried. You'll get mistakes. All that kind of stuff. He's coming out with the right stuff. It's not as if we've splashed a load of cash on new strikers. It's the same strikers. So maybe there is something. Maybe there is something to buy into here. Maybe there is a belief. Yeah, you're releasing people to play like Britt Assombalonga in a more Bernie Slaven type role where he's going to pick up scraps because that's his game. Holding the ball up isn't. We're looking at Paddy McNair playing in a more natural position. So, do you get the feeling the players are buying into it?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's. You don't like to say put names, but there is certain players in that team. I think they've still got the mentality of the Pulis area. They're not looking to play forward. I mean, Johnny Howson, for me, he's a midfield player.
Oh, he is.
Attack a midfield player.
But I think he's the sort of player who's happy to sacrifice where he'd rather be just for the team.
Yes, he is. But he never wastes the ball. He looks forward for that forward pass. But if he was in a midfield position, I think he would get beyond their defenders. He's that type of player.
And he's one of a number of players who we've lost to injury. Let's dip into the Boro camp and have a listen to what Johnny Woodgate had to say about the injury situation. Basically, 2 players under the scalpel this week, George Friend and Johnny Howson, as you've mentioned. This is what he's had to say.
Danny Ayala will be back, like you say. It's a nice way to put it, in it being another knife. They've had 2 operations this week, one a hernia and one a thigh operation, and his rectus femoris. I'll see what the doctor says when he gets back tomorrow. Rudy has a hamstring injury, and Hayden Coulson will be a few weeks yet.
Reading this weekend, what have you made of their season so far?
They've had good results at times. I watched the game I've watched every game, but I watched the game live on Sky against Cardiff, where they beat them 3-0. They're a good team. They play on the counter-attack. They signed Puskas and Zhao. this season for a lot of money. I don't know how they've done that, but they've signed them for a lot of money, and they've done well to get them 2 players. They're a good team, and I always say it'll be a tough test for us.
So a tough test it's going to be. If you want to see more of that, listen to more of that, mfc.co.uk is the place to be. On the injury front though, Chris, good to hear that Ayala's going to be back. Sadly, Coulson's delayed getting further, because he was exciting. He was an exciting youngster to see in there, in the defence, bombing forward, and I think that helped the sort of Luton performance. But obviously, I think Howson's going to be a big miss, isn't he?
Howson's a big miss, but one of the players that I still think has a role to play with Boro is Clayton. I like the way that he sweeps up. He's very good at retrieving the ball for the team, and I know he lacks pace, but I do think he can still play an effective part. But it's getting the balance right, so we've got the forward mobility as well with the other players. So it'll be interesting to see whether Woodgate actually fancies playing 5 at the back. Then there won't be space for him.
Are you concerned that we might not have a deep enough squad, Peter? That these injuries are going to start taking their toll on us?
Yeah, could do. You know, I mean, let's be truthful. You look at the Premiership, they have two players for every position now, don't they? You know what I mean? And if we haven't got the money and we haven't got the resources, I think it will affect us. But they've got to play for that red shirt.
Yeah, and I don't know whether modern day footballers do play for that red shirt as much as we used to see the likes of.
I mean, I'll just check it. Sorry, David. It's about Clayton. I mean, yeah, he's 100% there, and yes, he does get stuck in. But I think the other day when I watched it against,
he made two bad mistakes where he gave the ball away.
He does. I think he's still got the mentality of the Pulis seeder by sideways, backwards.
All the way back to
if Woody can get that lad to get forward, play a little 1-2, and then get on the end of something, and then try and have a shot off, But when he's getting the ball, he's turning round and he's looking to give it back. Yeah. And I think that's what the crowd get annoyed with.
So let's look ahead then. Reading are here. It's the first of the next 4 games where we have 3 at the Riverside. First and foremost, Reading. Is this a game we have to win?
It's a long season. You don't have to win any game at the moment. I don't go for that one. I think it's important that we put on a performance.
Is it not a team that we would be expecting to finish above at the end of the season?
With the players they've signed, it's early days on that, because I think they've signed some exciting players. But that's bringing back to your point you were making about the Premier League. Boro are complying with the financial fair play regs. That's why we've got such a small squad and no players, apart from our biggest earner, I think, probably Gusted. And I'm not a fan.
You're not a fan, I know. But and you're also not subscribing into we must win. Where are you, Peter, with the Reading game?
Well, I would say it's going to be a tough game, but it's one we can win. And we've got, Chris says we don't have to win, but I think we do, because once you get that gap between top and bottom and you start losing your own games, I mean, my point is you need to win your home games and pick up a nice little point at Bristol City, a nice point at Huddersfield, or even 3 points at Huddersfield, things like that.
It's interesting because we had Foxy, who's a Boro fan, in on one of the radio shows today, and he was saying he thinks the Boro will be playing better and maybe more successful away from home this season than at home, simply because everything's new, everything's inexperienced, and they'll maybe relax that little bit more away from home.
Well, the other thing is that teams are more open, so there's more space to move into. But going back to the point you were talking about, how important is it? I was talking about over the course of a season. It's only at the end of the season you'd look back and think, was it a good point if we got 1 point, or was it 2 points? But the other thing you said about being 3 out of 4 games at home, that's why ideally it's about getting momentum. We've got 3 games at home, and then coming in Peter's point, our home record's been shocking the last 2 seasons. And we start winning our home record, and we're right up there in the promotion mix.
So we're going into this 3 games unbeaten. So we've got Reading coming up, We've got a tricky trip away to Cardiff, but you talk about momentum. We've got Chef Wed at home, Preston at home. How many points would you be happy with over those 4 games?
8.
Yeah?
Oh, no,
I'd be delighted with 8.
Well, I'm going more. I want.
Go on. Go on, Mr. Greedy. What do you want? 9?
No,
You want 3 wins?
I want 3 wins at home. Yeah, 3 wins at home.
3 wins at home,
Yeah,
so
so
9
9.
points.
But
10. That's good. Sorry, I'm going for 10, and that's why I say if we draw one of the ones at home, but we win away, I'll still take 10 all day long.
Winning at Cardiff, I'd take that. Absolutely, I would.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting because we've been putting it out this week to fans saying how many points would you be happy with? And there's some real doomsters saying 1 or 2 we're going to get, and there's others saying we're going to get 10. So I think the fans are split. It's just like Brexit, isn't it? You're either that end or that end. There's hardly any in the middle.
All these, I know we've all got opinions, but when they come on social media and they're saying, "Oh, we're going to get beat 3-0 at home, or we're getting beat 2-0 at home."
Well, it's opinions I want now.
I wish I had their crystal ball.
Give us the scoreline against Reading.
Reading 2-1 to Boro.
2-1 Boro. That's the third person I've heard say that.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1 as well. Just because I think Boro are likely to concede, and that's one thing I want to stop.
The stars are aligned. Everybody's going 2-1 because I've done the same. We're out of time, fellas. Join us next week. See you.
That's great, cheers.